Welcome to Season 2 of Red Sox Digest, the only show where pain, sarcasm, and false hope collide nightly, like a Masataka Yoshida ground out to second. We break down every loss, every meltdown, and the occasional win, with sarcasm, facts, and no front office spin. Subscribe today at RedSoxDigest.com, or keep wondering how a wildcard team spent an entire offseason avoiding power hitters. And now, here's the crew at Red Sox Digest.
Good evening, sports fans, and welcome to another edition of Red Sox Digest. I am your host tonight, Jim Delfino. And yes, I am here still pretending this is a baseball podcast and not a court-ordered emotional support group for grown men who keep refreshing the standings like a raccoon trying to operate an iPad. I spent the weekend watching the Red Sox in Cleveland, which is basically what happens when Fenway Park gets shipped to Ohio, loses all charm, and gets surrounded by people who still think the drummer in the bleachers is public infrastructure. And I know what you're thinking. Jim, the Red Sox won the series. Yes, they did. They took 2 out of 3 from the Cleveland Guardians, which means we now have to act like this wasn't a team that walked into Friday night looking like the Yankees analytics department tried to build a baseball team using expired print ink and vibes. Speaking of the Yankees, I would like to congratulate myself for continuing to host this show despite having the emotional stability of a Yankee fan in October watching Aaron Judge strike out on a pitch in the other batter's box. If Boone got ejected, tripped over the dugout step, and then blamed the Lightning. Joining me tonight is Nick Face, a man who hates losing so much that if the Red Sox strand a runner at third, he starts arguing with strangers online like they personally told the runner to stop. Nick watched Friday's 4-3 loss and immediately filed a class action lawsuit against the concept of situational hitting. The guy doesn't just watch baseball, he prosecutes it. Also joining us tonight is John Martinello, who brings the kind of calm, measured baseball insight you'd expect from a man who has definitely yelled throw strikes at a television like the pitcher could hear him through the HDMI cable. John is the only guy I know who can turn a Red Sox win into a 14-minute warning about how the 8th inning still had bad body language. And finally joining us tonight is Thayer Doyle, educator, family man, Irishman, and the fundamental baseball watchdog. Thayer watches a missed cutoff man from the way a priest watches someone steal from the collection basket. He saw Masataka Yoshida misplay that ball Sunday and started reaching for chalk, a whistle, and a laminated handout called How Not to Defend Like You're Being Attacked by Bees. Let's get into it. Your Boston Red Sox are now 25-33 and a whole 12 games behind the Tampa Bay Rays for first place in the American League East. So yes, they won the series, but let's not start hanging banners. This is still a team buried in 5th place, looking up at the division like a guy in a manhole asking if the party's still going. Friday night, the Red Sox lost 4-3. They fell behind, tried to rally, got RBIs from Marcelo Mayer, Caleb Durbin, and Jarren Duran, and still came up short because apparently scoring almost enough is now part of the brand. The game was like watching someone assemble IKEA furniture with no instructions and then proudly say, at least it's standing. Yes, barely. Then Saturday happened, and suddenly the Red Sox remembered bats are not decorative. They beat Cleveland 9-1 behind Sonny Gray, who gave them 6 strong innings while Connor Wong and Jarren Duran each drove in 3. Duran hit a 3-run homer in the 9th because nothing says Red Sox baseball like waiting until everyone is already emotionally numb before turning into the 27 Yankees for 15 minutes. The 9th inning was ridiculous. 6 runs, doubles, sac flies, chaos. It was like the Guardians bullpen opened the door and the Red Sox offense drove a clown car through the living room. And then Sunday, Boston won 9-4, and the 7th inning finally gave us the kind of baseball that we've been begging for. Down 4-3, 2 outs, bases loaded. Wilyer Abreu walks to tie it. Yoshida, fresh off turning left field into a municipal hazard zone, comes up and slaps the go-ahead 2-run single. That's baseball. 1 minute you look like you're trying to catch a balloon in a wind tunnel, and the next minute you're the hero. And then Isaiah Kiner-Falefa adds an RBI single. Caleb Durbin ribs a 2-run triple, and suddenly Cleveland's bullpen looked like it had assembled during a fire drill. 6 runs in the 7th. Every Red Sox starter got a hit. Jarren Duran hit his 10th home run and extended his hitting streak. The offense scored 18 runs over the final 2 games of the series, which is exactly the kind of thing that makes you furious because now you know they're capable of doing it. That's the problem with this team. They don't just stink, they tease you. They lose Friday in an annoying Red Sox fashion and then win Saturday and Sunday like they found the cheat code under the couch cushions. So tonight we're talking about the Guardian series, the Friday irritation, the Saturday explosion, and the Sunday redemption. Duran looking like a real catalyst. Durbin continuing to matter. Yoshida going from crime scene to clutch hit, and whether this series was actually progress or just another Red Sox mirage in the desert before they walk face first into a cactus. That's it. I've said enough. It is now time for the word of the day.
And now it's time for Nick Face's Word of the Day!
Trade. Meaning Jarren Duran. But let's talk about the positive here. Jarren Duran has definitely upped his trade value since during these last 15 games. I don't know if you guys have seen the stat line, but there's been 63 at-bats. He is at a 317 clip for an average on base of 400. He's slugging 683. He has hit 6 home runs and knocked in 15 RBIs, 8 walks, which is surprising with only 1 steal. He's definitely not running as much as we had hoped. But there is a little pulse, at least for him, with getting at least something mechanically done with fixing his swing. So I have to give him credit, as much as it pains me to have to say it. I'm surprised he's laughing about my take on Jarren Duran, because you know how much I despise him on how he's been since really the second half of 2024. But I don't know what we're waiting here for, guys. For him to strike out, for him to go into another spell where he just can't hit the broadside of a barn. It's time to entertain something you can get in return versus nothing. You know, it's a lot better than the first month where basically you weren't going to get anything for Jarren Duran. Now, if he keeps playing the way it's been, at least over this 15-game stretch, those are better numbers. Is there a team out there that wants that? And I'm curious to see, if those numbers keep going up here a little bit, what the package could look like for him. I am pleasantly surprised with the adjustment also that Caleb Durbin has made with his swing. You have definitely seen an adjustment that has been made. And I find it so fascinating how it took him going to a private hitting facility to figure out what he was doing. He took his talents out of Fenway Park, out of Boston, and said, shove it up your, well, this is a friendly show. And to fix it. What I like with the approach with what I'm seeing is you're seeing opposite field. With Durbin, when he's going that way and driving the ball, it means that he's seeing the ball better. Will that sustain? We'll have to see on that. But again, we went from life support to seeing that little tick of somewhat of a hopeful new beginning in a way for Caleb Durbin and also for Jarren Duran. I give them credit, I guess, for the weekend for the Guardian series. They definitely should not have lost on Friday. I give Bayo credit for coming in after the opening act, naturally, of course, being horrendous, and then Bayo figuring it out again, coming in relief and getting the job done. So you got to give him credit on that one. But they couldn't muster off that sweep. You know, it was nice to see the Saturday game. The offense definitely started clicking and everything. And then yesterday's game, same approach, was starting to click again there too. There was definitely a little bit of luck on their side with one of the calls. I believe that was Saturday's game, where the call from the home plate umpire was a very borderline strike 3. The Guardians ran out of challenges. Obviously, if they challenged, I think it was Wilyer Abreu who walked. and then that resulted in the floodgates opening. You get Yoshida getting a hit. You got IKF, him getting a hit as well. Another guy you can also start to say you're seeing a little bit out of him now versus nothing. So that's another potential guy that could be trade bait if somebody is looking for a veteran type. So that was a plus. And the other one was Yoshida getting the hit after his fantastic play in left field, guys. Fantastic. It looks so much like your 2021 Jarren Duran coming up. Oh, where's the ball? Oh, I'm supposed to catch it? Oh, where'd it go again? Oh, I don't know. Yeah, you're supposed to catch the ball in left field. Believe it or not, that's what an outfielder's job is. So definitely some comedy hour events this past weekend, but I don't think we need to be screaming off the cliffs about how bad, I guess, the team was this weekend. They took 2 of 3. Yippee.
Yeah, very interesting on Durbin. I want to comment on that later if we have some time. But Nick's Face to Facts is brought to you by Face Facts.
If you can't say it, then don't do it.
You know what? Bite me. Anyway, Nick Face's Face to Facts is brought to you by Face Facts Argument Grade Blood Pressure Gum. The first chewing gum designed specifically for fans who see one person say the Red Sox are fine and immediately start typing with a rage of a man whose house just got robbed by Aaron Boone. Each piece contains 400% more irrational confidence, a hint of Fenway dirt, emergency caps lock activation, and built-in actually you mental midget flavor crystals. Perfect for a blown lead, a stranded runner at third, and someone defending Craig Breslow. Moving right along, we're going to go to the Martinello Minute.
And now the part.
Oops, I'm sorry.
And now the part they don't want said out loud. No spreadsheets or corporate spin, just the truth, raw and impatient. This is the Martinello Minute.
Yeah, so Red Sox won the series 2-1. Really good to see them performing on the road. After a really tough 6-game stretch at Fenway Park. But yeah, Nick pointed to it. Bayo pitched great in the first game of the series after Tyler Samaniegos implosion in the first inning. In these games that Bayo's coming, doing the bulk work, and we have the opener, they're 1-3 in those games. The opener in all 4 of those games has given up a run, and in 2 of those 4 starts, Bayo's faced the top of the lineup in his first inning of work. So the whole point of him being an opener, 50% of the time is just not, you're not getting that. And then he's I think in 3 out of the 4 bulk outings that he's had a deficit in those. So, do you blame the pitcher, or what pitcher do you blame? Because it's Ben Moran and Samaniego that have given up runs. Do you go to another pitcher, or do you have to go ahead and trust Bayo to, actually just start a game? Even though that's obviously been horrendous this year, but do you go to someone else? What do you, what's the answer here? Because obviously we saw that Garrett Crochet had another quote unquote setback, which he says isn't really one, but we'll see when he does come back, because it's been over a month without him. The last time he pitched, Alex Cora was still the manager. But Bayo, 7 innings, 4 hits, 5 strikeouts, no runs given up. Red Sox had to put up 3 in the 5th, and then outside of that, nothing. So Caleb Durbin, Nick pointed to it. He got those hitting lessons from Gradam G Swing. I don't care where you go, get fixed. I don't care if it's with the Red Sox. I don't care if it's with Gradam. I don't care if it's, going to the driveline facilities and doing it there. He's 6 for 17 since the work got done. His hands are lower, the bat's higher. He has a closed stance. So listen, if Caleb Durbin's going to start hitting the ball, I don't care who's teaching him what. Game 2, Red Sox won 9-1. Sonny Gray, 6 innings, 4 strikeouts. or 4 hits, 7 strikeouts, and 1 earned run. 14 whiffs, which, we pointed to in his last outing that he started getting strikeouts again. I think it was 9 strikeouts last time around, 7 strikeouts this time around, 8 strikeouts on the sweeper. And then also he was really heavy on his four-seam fastball usage. It was at 30% compared to just 19% on the year going into that start. So Sonny Gray, talked about a couple turns back around that he wanted, he's a strikeout pitcher. He's at 16 strikeouts in his last 2 starts. So we're starting to see that again, and he's got a 6-1 record on the year. Game 3, Red Sox win 9-4. Duran leadoff home run. In his last since May 16th, he's hitting .333 with an 11-17 OPS. In the 60 at bats, he has 20 hits, 2 doubles, 1 triple, 6 homers, 15 RBIs, 10 home runs on the year, 9 of them this month. Nick was talking about his trade value. I'm on the same page as him there. It's going right up. And, as we get close to this deadline, I know we're going to talk about who's going to be making the moves at the deadline later. So I won't get too deep into it now, but really interesting to see what teams are going to be biting on him as we get closer to the, I believe, August 3rd deadline. Only negative that I have, about this Duran hot streak, everybody likes to say that the Red Sox, as the Jarren Duran goes, the Red Sox go. In this stretch of 60 at bats, Red Sox are 7-7. So they haven't necessarily gone at all, but they haven't, been dying either. Game 3, I just said it. Duran with that leadoff home run. Austin Hedges, he's hitting .300 against left-handed pitchers this year. Don't know where the hell that came from, but he drove in 2 runs to give the Guardians a 4-3 lead in the 5th. Then, Nick, you said it as well. The Red Sox scored 6 runs in the 7th inning after that Willie Abreu RBI walk. That was 100% a strike, but, a team that's struggling as bad as these guys are, you need those calls, and finally the ABS worked in our way. Connor Wong had an RBI knock on a pitch above his head. IKF, the guy's hitting .458 in his past 7 games. I'll take it. Another guy, if any team wants him, he's yours. And then Durbin, as I pointed to, RBI triple. He had 5 RBIs in the series. Ranger Suarez wasn't great, but 10 strikeouts in 5 innings. You'll take that. Again, with Yoshida in left field, I think that was the first time I've ever seen Ranger Suarez show emotion on the mound. You could tell that he was pissed off. Yoshida lost the ball in the sun, and Nick, you said it as well. Just the flashbacks to Jarren Duran and Christian Arroyo losing the ball a couple years ago. Nightmare scenario, but thank God Giovanni Moran, Greg Weissert, Tyron Guerrero completely shut it down afterwards, and then Aroldis Chapman got his first inning of work since May 20th. He's got a 0.48 ERA on the year, 141 batting average against, and no home runs given up in 19 appearances. So Red Sox take 2 out of 3. The offense looked great. Pitching was pretty decent. And now we get the Orioles coming, or we at the, I don't even care. They're playing the Orioles next. And so that's a team that's been playing good baseball lately. So this offensive trend has to continue for them to keep stacking wins.
Yeah, I mean, if they're going to stay in this hunt and not sell, they've got a very small window of time left. That's the bottom line. The Martinello Minute is brought to you by the 9th inning doom blanket, because no lead is safe, no bullpen is trustworthy, and no Red Sox win should ever be taken and enjoyed responsibly. The 9th inning doom blanket is a weighted blanket for Red Sox fans who start sweating the second the bullpen gate opens. Boston up 9-4. Here comes Weissert. Nobody on base? That's how they'll get you. This premium panic blanket features built-in clenched fist stitching, a breathable here we go anxiety layer, and emergency replay pocket, a hidden compartment for Tums, rosary beads, and old Koji Uehara highlights. And now we're going to move on to the third strike.
And now it's time for the third strike with Thayer.
All right, so we won a series. Congratulations, us. Took 2 out of 3 from Cleveland. We had some offensive productivity. My question, and this is kind of rhetorical, is what separates everyday professional baseball players from 4A and AAA baseball players? I'll give you all a moment to think about it for a second. The answer is consistency. Consistency is what makes professional baseball players elite. It what gets them paid. It what provides entertainment for fans. What we're lacking is consistency with the Red Sox. We saw it a lot last year. We have a lot of young players on this team. We had streaks, 10-game winning streak where they couldn't make it out. They were unstoppable. And then there were times where it looked like they had no idea what they're doing. So my question is this. Is this the team that we're going to have moving forward, the one we saw for 2 days? Or is it the team that we saw for 2 months, where they were the worst offense in recent memory? I feel it's going to be somewhere in between. They're not capable of doing what they've been doing these last 2 weeks and couple games. And the thing that is most disturbing to me is that it's not consistent throughout the game. We've had, in the last 4 or 5 games, 3 big innings where suddenly the floodgates open and hits galore happen. But the rest of the at-bats and the rest of the innings before that are 3 and out, 3 and out. One guy gets on base, double play. There's no consistency with this team. I think they're going to be a little bit better, but they are not going to be a team that's going to control their destiny in any way, shape, or form. And I know Nick and John, you all talked about it. If Cleveland had managed to save one of their challenges, the Red Sox lose yesterday. It's that simple. There's no sort of follow through on it. Now, yes, you have to give them credit. They got that break and they made the most out of it. The problem is more times than not, they haven't been able to take advantage of those breaks. And we're still dealing with the same pitiful roster construction. Your center fielder had a back strain last night, and you had to put Yoshida in left field, and it ultimately should have cost you the game because he could not track a fly ball in the sun. That's an issue. Mickey Mantle Gasper. All right, it's fine. It's fantastic. He's having a good couple weeks. Do we think this man is going to, in any way, shape, or form, be able to continue to do this? It's Torres, or what was that guy, Torres, that we had last year, playing third base all over again. He might come in and have a good month, but that's it. He is not going to do anything worth a damn on this team. So we have to stop thinking about these guys. We're bringing in the 30-year-old, flamethrower who throws 100 miles an hour. That's not going to last either. You need professionals. And I'm with Nick. Duran, please continue to go crazy and trade him. Please, Breslow, manage to make a trade. And we'll get more into that later. But I do not expect this offensive sort of productivity to continue in any way, shape, or form. We'll have a few more games like this, but it's going to be far more like it was than it has been.
Woo-hoo! Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. That's the problem with this team. They got to play the hot hand. Mickey Gasper comes up, has a couple hits in the first game, and then all of a sudden he's your number 2 hitter. It's not it's a non-sustainable product. Every time they put out the most ridiculous lineup, I make some kind of comment on Twitter, and John usually mentions this because it's kind of like reverse psychology. It's the worst lineup I've ever seen, and then they score like 9 runs and win the game. And then they'll put the next worst lineup I've ever seen in the history of my life, and then they win again. It's unbelievable that they can even get that kind of lightning in a bottle. But we'll see how that goes from there. So the third strike with Thayer is brought to you by Fundamentals Funeral Home, where bad cutoff throws, lazy defense, and missed signs go to receive a proper Irish wake. At Fundamentals Funeral Home, we honor the basic baseball skills of the 2026 Red Sox. Keep murdering in broad daylight. Did your left fielder misplay a fly ball like it was delivered on Amazon Prime? Did your infielder forget where first base was? Bring them to Fundamentals Funeral Home, where every service includes a full chalkboard breakdown, one disappointed sigh, a laminated "This is why we practice" pamphlet, bagpipes playing slowly over footage of the error, and complimentary holy water for the glove. Fundamentals Funeral Home, because somewhere in this organization, the bunt sign died alone. I want to kind of go into a few more talking points. The first one, I think, is kind of like what's been in the news mostly for today. And that centers around a guy who hasn't been really in the limelight for quite some time. And all of a sudden, we're seeing him more over the last couple of weeks. And that's our good old pal, Theo Epstein. Theo thinks Breslow built a spreadsheet cult. A report is saying Theo Epstein is disappointed with the Red Sox intense analytical direction under current CBO Craig Breslow. That's not some old school drunk at the end of the bar yelling, play the game the right way. It's Theo Epstein, the guy who helped modernize baseball, basically looking at Breslow's operation and saying, buddy, maybe we should stop. We should try to win the World Series without a calculator and 3 interns named Braden. Nobody is anti-analytics. Analytics are fine, but the Red Sox have turned it into a religion. Every bad roster decision comes with a 14-page explanation, a heat map, and a sentence that sounds like it was translated from robot Latin. Theo used numbers. Breslow worships them. Theo built championship teams. Breslow built a last-place TED Talk. And that's the difference. The Red Sox don't look smart. They look over-engineered and under-talented. My question is this Theo story the first sign that people inside the organization are starting to realize Breslow's, quote, intellectual baseball laboratory is just a nerd bunker with bad lightning? John, I'll start with you.
Yeah. So, I mean, the way that I see like how Craig Breslow works is he, obviously he relies heavily on, his computer model. And, every single team in baseball relies on a computer model to some degree. But what Breslow does that other teams don't do is he fires his entire scouting department and only looks at numbers on a spreadsheet. As far as, is he on a hot seat or not? Is there anybody else to take his place right now? And so I don't think that there's a clear-cut yes to that answer. If you want to say Theo Epstein, I would ask back, does he even want to do that this year? So for right now, I think he's safe, but I don't think that, once we get closer to this trade deadline and moves have to be made, I don't think that he's going to be the one in charge of making said moves. So, and then on top of that, it's like, if that's the plan, that Breslow's not even going to be in charge of this trade deadline, what's the plan for John Henry and FSG? Who is going to be in charge of making these decisions? And if you don't want him around, why keep him around, until then or through the rest of the season? So, for Breslow, it's like, I don't, again, like, I don't think he's going to be making these decisions, but then again, like, here he is in year 3 or year 4 of, being in this position. Nobody in baseball likes him. Extension, which, looking back now, just makes no sense whatsoever why he did that in 24. He doesn't have the green light from ownership to do anything that he wants. Or at least he has to go, he has to get through them, get their approval first for anything. In his introductory press conference, he talked about having the ability to communicate with players and also with other executives. I think that we could all say that it's probably his worst attribute is communicating with anybody that didn't go to Yale. And again, like, if he can't do what's probably the most important part of his job, why does he have it? We heard today about he might need an interpreter because he just talks like a robot. 101010. So as I just don't know what to do with this guy. To give him credit for anything, I think he has done a really good job with the pitching development and pitching infrastructure. And like, sure, you could say, Quinn Priester and Kyle Harrison trades were a disaster, but to be fair, I never said that he was good at making trades. So that's the pitching's the only thing he is good at. And then obviously we could tell there's a whole other side of baseball that they're the worst in the sport. In May, the Red Sox had a 103 WRC plus, which was 11th in baseball. They were 2nd in batting average this month, 6th in on base, 8th in OPS. But, the problem which again, the computer numbers will give you that batting average, that on base percentage, that OPS. But what it doesn't give you is the, just how players operate, putting them into environments to succeed. And we saw it because this month, all these good numbers I just gave you, they were 24th in OPS with runners in scoring position and 25th in WRC plus. So, he has a very good mind for a lot of things. But then when it comes to just the human nature and just the psychology part of baseball is where he falters. And it's shown tremendously over the course of his time here.
Thayer, I'm going to ask you a similar question and also put in this information. It was also released, too, that David Ortiz speaking with John Henry at some point, I think at one of the golf classics or whatever it was saying that John really is disappointed. He does have an interest in how the team is going. He's not happy with the way things are going. That's a lot, I think, for Ortiz to go and stick his head out and say that publicly, knowing how this has been going. So with the Theo thing and with Ortiz, what are your thoughts?
They have no plan, clearly, to John's point, that they haven't had a plan from a baseball standpoint, so they're not going to have a plan from an organizational standpoint on how to deal with upper management. I think really a lot of this is, again, all about the image of the Red Sox and John Henry and Theo Epstein, and they don't want to be in Theo's case, I think he's trying to distance himself as far as possible because there's been all these talks about, Theo came in to do this and Theo came in to do that. He's backing away and saying, I know I have a relationship with this guy. I know that I brought him in, but to Chicago, and I recommended him here, but I think he's distancing himself from that standpoint. Sort of the same way, at the press conference when Kennedy said, this is Breslow's moves. These are all Breslow's moves. Kennedy and Theo are boys. So I think Epstein is doing the same thing. Like, Kennedy kind of threw Breslow under the bus on this one. If this doesn't go right, it's on him. I think Epstein is sort of doing the same thing. He doesn't want any part of this because I don't think Epstein wants to be part of the Red Sox organization, like running it. Ultimately, I think he wants to be in charge of baseball. I think he wants commissionership. I think he wants to be somewhere along those lines. And he's just trying to push himself away from that. As far as Henry being upset, I'm sure Ortiz is right. I'm sure Henry told him he's pissed off that they're doing this poorly. But He's angry that the team is making him look bad. He's not angry that the fact that the team is making him boatloads of money. So that's kind of he's angry at the image of the Red Sox and not necessarily anything other than that. He's still making his money, so he's going to be fine with it. He just doesn't want to have to deal with the papers and the columns and radio broadcasts and things like that criticizing him and the fans criticizing him. Because he's sensitive in that area.
But the thing is, too, is that these guys like Werner and him, they care about the image situation, too. That whole, especially with these guys that are in the line.
Why they're going to fire Breslow. They're going to blame it all on him. These are all these things that are going out it's unusual for the Red Sox because usually you get the hit pieces after they fire somebody. Mm-hmm. These are the hit pieces that are just setting them up, calling for an interpreter for Breslow. Like, we need an English-speaking interpreter for an English-speaking human being. Okay, that's fantastic. That's a good way of
nerd,
right? But that's kind of the piece. They're all setting it up so they will not have, in the eyes of the fans, that responsibility. Yeah, we screwed up, but look, we fixed it. We fired this guy. That's what they're setting this up for entirely. It's not my fault. It's his.
Nick, your take.
I actually am a little different here than Thayer. I am not naming my specific source. However, I found it very interesting that all of this came out today. Number one, being in the Globe, John Henry's paper. But number two has to do with Theo Epstein being front and center in the last 2 weeks, basically, with big stories regarding his take on the Red Sox and now here. Why is that? Well, if the Red Sox continue down the path that they are, of being an embarrassment to Major League Baseball and to the city of Boston. There is a potential deal that's been in play where money doesn't matter in this situation, meaning Theo's dream is to be the next baseball commish. That's 100%. But baseball is going to be in a little bit of a tricky situation with the new CBA that is due for next season. So what's going to happen here is a little bit of a muddy waters situation, meaning it's a lot of unknown on what's going on. It also means that it doesn't look like Rob Manfred's also going anywhere right now. So Theo's just kind of in a waiting nest right now on figuring out what path is his direction right now. What's going on right now is the Red Sox are trying to figure out what they're actually going to do, not with Craig Breslow, because Breslow's out. It's just a matter of time. When it comes is just really what we're waiting on right now. But the bigger fish to fry right here is Sam Kennedy, guys. Sam Kennedy is the CEO of the Red Sox. Well, Theo Epstein, take front stage right here, because John Henry is so upset with how his team is right now that man is just about desperate to do whatever he wants to open up his wallet to have Theo fix his team. So Theo naturally will probably look at this as, do I really want this? But, oh, the money's too good to be a part of this. Well, John Henry's pretty much going to write him a check of millions upon millions of dollars to fix his franchise. So get ready, folks, because it is coming. Get ready. You heard it here from me first. It's just a matter of when. And what do they do with Sam Kennedy? I would fire him, but there's too much of a loyalty to John, a friendship with Theo, all this sort of thing, where they're gonna most likely reassign, like they did with Jason Varitek, but legitimately reassign Sam Kennedy into another role. And you're gonna start seeing Theo transition. That's what's going to be going on. I'm happy for that. Whenever that comes, I want it now, but I get it. They got a lot of things to figure out into the fold. But I do have to tell you guys, today, learning more about the information that was going on and other sources and stuff, I do have to say that this is probably one of the first days in a long time I have seen light at the end of the tunnel. Because I, for one, am somebody who grew up when I was in high school and a kid, loved Theo Epstein. At the beginning, we didn't when he started making trades before, obviously, the World Series was won and everything. But I think I can speak for most of you guys here and probably our audience that Theo, there's no other person probably right now in baseball that I would trust more to fix this Boston Red Sox team than Theo Epstein. Think about it. I mean, does Theo want to get back into that? Probably not. Probably doesn't want anything to do with it, but he understands that desperate times call for desperate measures, and sometimes decisions, writing that little check of some sorts, can be fine. And also, I have to say, even if Theo didn't fix what was going on here, I, for one, am not going to be mad. I don't know if they or John or Jim, your thoughts, but I'm not going to blame Theo from what he's gone through in his career to dealing with what he has in front of him, because he has way too much of a sample size to know that he's a 3-time World Series champion, that he's brought so much to the table already, that if it doesn't work, I'm not going to blame Theo for it. I'm going to blame the players. And I think that's pretty much how fans would feel the same way too. I'll blame the players. You could blame other coaches. You could do that. But I, for one, if Theo was front and center here again, I'm not going to blame him for what he inherited to try to fix. I think that's the best way I can word that right there. So I've been done with Sam Kennedy since the moment he spoke. So I'd be all for the change. I do think, again, it would be a temporary sort of thing until things get better, much like you said, John, at your earlier take, where They have to find that right person that Theo trusts or John trusts to get this franchise and team back onto a winning trajectory. That's what it's got to be. But I put my trust into my sources and my information that's said here. It's just a matter of when and how it's going to get done, but expect it soon.
Yeah, a lot of good information. I was going to kind of parlay that with my piece of take today. And here's my piece of take. Theo Epstein will become the new president of the Red Sox, taking over for what Larry Lucchino was. Sam Kennedy will be reassigned. Breslow will either be fired or reassigned because they still love what he's doing with the pitching, and they may not want to lose that. Theo Epstein will assume general manager CBO activities for the rest of 2026. And in the offseason, Theo Epstein will be front and center with the interviews for a new CBO and possibly a new manager. I will like 60 seconds, get everybody's thoughts on that. John, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a perfect scenario. I like if there's any way for, all the pieces to start moving for the next chapter of Red Sox baseball, that's exactly the route that I would take. And, I think it really just boils down to what does Theo Epstein want to do? Nick, you made the point that we don't know if he wants, what he wants to do, what his 5-year plan is. Is it with the Red Sox? Is it with FSG? Is it with Major League Baseball?
John, let me throw this at you, because even Tony Mass talked about it too. If he threw him a lot of money, but imagine too, we all assume, John, that he wants to be commissioner. We don't know that. I don't know if he's publicly said that. If he has, I'm mistaken.
It is true. He does.
Okay.
It's confirmed.
All right. So that's fine. But we also don't know what that timeline looks like. And it could be a year, it could be 10 years. The point is, if you were to put yourself, John, in Theo's shoes, and you had the track record that he does, wouldn't there maybe for you and I, but do you think there could be a little itch that he might want to scratch and say, I bet I could do it again?
Yeah, 100%. And Nick threw up the Post-it note. Money talks.
It sure does.
So if a crazy number's thrown at him, even if he isn't in love with the idea of, taking over for whatever amount of time, because
a year.
What is it? Manfred has said in the past that after this CBA, once the next one is over, is when he'll step away from the role of being the commissioner of baseball. So, what is that? Another 6 years from now? Does Theo Epstein want to, assume the role of PBO or GM or president of baseball for the Red Sox? Does he have that drive to, be in the day-to-day, how the team operates on a day-to-day basis, opposed to what he's doing right now, which is kind of just just an advisory role for FSG, and not so much dealing with the Red Sox on the the little picture stuff or the short term. So I assume it would just take a number on a paycheck to really get him over the hump to agree to do it. And I hope that's the way that the things break down and go just the way that the everything goes, because what other minds do the fans, the front, I don't want to say front office because that is what would be changing, but the fans and the ownership of the team, everybody will be on the same page for the first time in God knows how long.
Right. And that's where I kind of went into that, him having the ability to actually bring all his people in again, however he wanted to do it. Because look, it worked the first time. You look at the Jed Hoyers, you look at, all these GMs that are everywhere and managers, they're all doing fine, and they're all from that family tree. So it would be interesting. Thayer, what's your thoughts on all that?
I think it's interesting from a temporary standpoint. I definitely think he wants to be the commissioner of baseball, and I think he's trying to bide his time. And John, like you said, that 6 years, that may be sooner. This lockout, from what I'm hearing, from especially with what the players union just put out, their expectations, it's going to be very ugly, and my guess is there's going to be a lot of disputes from both sides, and Manfred's going to be smack dab in the middle of it. And I wouldn't be shocked if he comes out of this sort of aged and isn't really thinking about 6 years. It may be just like, I'm done, goodbye. And then that would give Theo that opportunity. And we all know Theo loves challenges. He took on the Red Sox. He took on the Cubs. There's really no better way to just basically ingrain yourself as a superhero in the world of baseball than to break the curse of the Red Sox, to break the curse of the Cubs, and then be the guy that becomes the commissioner following one of the worst potential lockouts of all time, devastating the game of baseball, and then be the one that resuscitates it. So I can sort of see, to Nick's point, that, and when you think about it, how do you get to that next level if you're in a sort of CEO position of a baseball club? That is just the next logical step to becoming the commissioner of baseball, where if you're just an advisor who was a general manager, that sort of thing, I wouldn't be shocked if he does that. And, and that's sort of Henry's MO. It's that knee-jerk reaction, write a check to solve my problems. Everybody booed me, I write the check for Devers. Everybody boos me, here, I'm going to write the check for Theo. You fix it. And again, to John's point, I think as Red Sox fans, that is really the only hope that we have, that he comes in, basically just cuts everything apart and just starts to rebuild it in his own image. Whether it's short-term or long-term, that's probably the best hope we have.
Well, that would be the first step in gutting everything, like I, kind of brought up, by putting him as president and getting rid of everybody or reassigning everybody. Kind of to Nick's point, we're just elaborating on it, folks. But the bottom line here is that, and this is also to Nick's point, you said about trust. I mean, outside of Theo Epstein, the only other name that you would have that any fans would trust, that I would trust, would be Dombrowski, right? But there's a different relationship with Theo and John, and I also believe that the Red Sox fan base would be more tolerant with Theo back in charge if that was in that capacity. And so I also believe that Theo would be more forthright like he was with the Cubs. And he basically said when he was on that podium, this isn't going to happen overnight. Stick with me. Trust me. Chaim Bloom tried to say that. It wasn't believable because of the moves he made. But he tried to say it, and I ridiculed him, and so did all of us and half of Twitter. We're going to do this and it's going to be awesome. He may have had a plan. The problem was John Henry at the time. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole right now, but if Theo was back in place and it took 2 or 3 bad years, I think the fans would understand much better. And no one, they might ridicule Henry, but I don't think fans would ever ridicule Theo. It just doesn't seem like everybody's quick, and it's funny with this fan base too, because a lot of people say, well, he gave you 4 world championships and you treat him like crap. They won't do that with Theo. You could just feel that won't happen. Nick, your closing thoughts on this segment.
I mean, you said it perfectly, Jim. It's a trust. We have no trust as fans right now with Sam Kennedy, John Henry, and Craig Breslow. We don't trust any of them right now. The only way damage can get repaired is by putting Theo back front and center with your fan base, almost in a way like an apology. Hey, we're so sorry for the past 10 years, whatever it's been. We're going to fix this. We're going to make this right. We want to earn your trust back with fans. So we're putting Theo back in charge to help rebuild this franchise. It would be the best thing that you could ever dream of happening right now, because there are so many people outside of us four that are right here that are so outraged and disgusted by what they're seeing with this team and this franchise. And I see Betty commenting here about Varitek. Yes, Jason Varitek would find some sort of role and be repositioned within the Red Sox organization with Theo back there too. So it's a win-win on a lot of different fronts. It's a rebuild in a way of a guy that came in as a kid as your GM, won that World Series in 2004, continued to prove that he could build a competitive winning ball club with his farm systems that were great, with spending money on legitimate players that can help your team, actually trading with other organizations to get worthy players back in return. I mean, we haven't seen that since Dombrowski in 2018. So it's almost been 10 years of feeling like we've been fleeced across the board with not getting anything in return. It's not this needs to happen, guys. This must happen, and it needs to happen now. So I hope that check clears. That's the big thing. I hope Theo runs down to the bank and gets that cleared and takes over starting tomorrow. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, again, just to belabor the point, but it would really reset this organization and reset this fan base as almost like we had a peace treaty. And, we can go from there. But at the end of the day, it's all about Theo being able to, talk to the fans in a way that Breslow and Bloom couldn't. Yeah, one less. Go ahead, Nick.
There was one more thing I wanted to mention, and I said back when the whole firing squad happened, I said here that John Henry is a very reactionary owner. We saw what he did with Devers after the World Hockey. What was that? The January 1st. What do you call that? When they had the Bruins were at Fenway. New Year's Day, they had the whatever it was, hockey.
Winter Classic.
Winter Classic. Thank you, John. He got slaughtered at Fenway Park when he came out with the Penguins.
Yeah.
He despised that moment, and that moment lived in infamy for him until Devers was signed to a big deal. We've been waiting since the firings of what is the next move.
Well, I mean, look, you've got
there. It is.
Yeah. Well, look, I've always said where there's smoke, there's fire, right? This stuff is coming out before the trade deadline gets close. You have to assume something's going to happen because it wouldn't make sense otherwise. But to your point too about Devers, he took a lot of wrath on that day. Carabas said, "Oh, the Red Sox still a priority." He was grilled. He doesn't like being that. He's also been at Fenway Park more this year than he has in the past. He's looking around. I think he's finally starting to get it. He's seeing planes fly over his stadium that says "Sell the team." He's embarrassed. He has fans that are paying tickets and in the stands chanting "Sell the team." Again, to Thayer's point, it's an image thing, and it's got to be done. We're kind of running out of time. I just want to really quick with just a couple other news things just to bring it up. Garrett Crochet on his MRI. He had another one. Downplayed. He was shut down, but he's got lat tightness now. Downplayed it as a minor setback. We'll see how that goes. And then, of course, Roman Anthony. I'd like to point this out. Still having the hand pain. I've been back and forth with a bunch of people on Twitter, and it amazes me that people they don't understand stuff, but they comment on stuff they don't understand, and they shouldn't comment on it. My position with the whole Roman Anthony thing is that it's a continued path of lies that they've provided Sox fans. And I've get stuff from, well, a sprain, they said it was a sprain. A sprain's a tear. And I've gotten things like, you don't know what you're talking about. I do know what I'm talking about. Number one, you grade sprains. Okay, there's a grading system. And a grade 2 and beyond is a tear. Grade 1 is not. And so this is the information that the Red Sox did not say. Well, HIPAA and everything like that. I understand that goes beyond that in sports. All right. So they were not forthcoming with the information the right way. That's all I want to say about that. We're going to move on to pitching probables for the next series with the Baltimore Orioles. Tuesday, which is tomorrow, June 2nd at 6:45, will be Connolly Early against Shane Baz. Wednesday, June 3rd, 6:45 start as well. Peyton Tolley against Chris Bassett. And then Thursday, June 4th at 1:30 in the afternoon is Bayo, if he's going to start. That's a question mark against Rogers. We'll go in reverse order. Nick, I'll start with you. What is your predictions for this series?
I can't go against Conley Early and Peyton Tolley right now. I can't. They are 1A and 1B of the positives and the spark of this organization right now. If there's any positives that you take away from 2026 so far, the two bright spots, or the two brightest spots, at least in my opinion, have been Conley Early and Peyton Tolley. So
no question.
I am going with the Red Sox for Tuesday and Wednesday, and then Bayo starting. I think you know my answer on that one. I will say the Red Sox take 2 or 3.
There are your predictions for this series. You're muted there. You're muted.
I'd like to say 2 out of 3, but I'm going to say they're going to lose 2 out of 3. I'm going to say this because of the Red Sox, again, just mismanaging everything. Bayo is a head case. I completely agree with that. However, Bayo, as the sort of bulk man, has been extraordinarily good compared to how he is as a starter. And it's just one of those simple coaching decisions. You have to put players in positions to be successful. Don't start the man. Put him in the second inning. I don't know what the difference is. I don't know how it impacts him. I don't know him at all. But I know that when I watch him pitch, he's a superior performer when he comes in after the first inning. As a team and an organization, figure out whatever you have to do to find someone who can actually get 3 outs in the first inning and let Bayo do his thing. The fact that they continue to not do this is just the organization disturbs me so much. So I'm going to say they lose 2 out of 3 because no matter how well Tolley's going to pitch, they're going to do something stupid and cost them a game.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think.
And it's an afternoon game, so you know Bayo's toast.
Maybe for some strange reason,
morning wake up for him.
I wonder if some way, because people all say, Bayo he should probably be traded, whatever. I wonder if he could become the next Andrew Miller. Kind of like a starter that goes into the bullpen and then becomes a reliever and becomes successful with that. John, your predictions for this series.
Yeah, I mean, so the way I look at this is the Red Sox are horrible at Fenway Park. And I don't want to look like an idiot and say that they're going to sweep anybody at home with their track record this season. So I'm actually going to be with Thayer here. I'm going 1 out of 3. If I had to guess, they're probably going to win tomorrow, and then Wednesday and Thursday they lose. And could it be because of the pitching? Could it be because of the offense? I'm sure one game, one of those 2 losses, if that is the case, one game it'll be the pitching, one game it'll be the hitting, but I can't trust them to win a series at Fenway Park this year. They've only done it once to this point. So 1 out of 3 from me.
I think that's the first time you've done 1 out of 3 all season.
Might be.
I'm going to go 2 out of 3 myself. Red Sox are going to win 2 out of 3. I got a bet on Toley. I've got a bet on Early. Bayo's the question mark. They have a good shot to stay. Honestly, if the Red Sox should sweep, they really should. Especially to Thayer's point of Bayo can, if they're going to go with an opener. See, that's the problem. The opener hasn't been working, unless they want to try somebody else. Maybe they should
trade for Bernardino.
Yeah, I know. Either that or put Chapman in for the first 2 innings. I don't know. Listen, anything's possible. If Whitlock wasn't hurt.
Weissert had a clean inning. I don't care if he's right-handed. Put him in for a clean inning and see what happens.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
why not Weissert?
That's always a possibility. So I'd like to see them win all 3, but I think they've got a strong chance to win 2 out of 3. I always thought Shane Baz was pretty good. He's gone to the Orioles, and he's been nothing. He really
Remember,
has.
the Orioles are 7-3 over their last 10, so they've been playing good baseball too.
They have been, and of course they're above you in the standings, so that's also important. But and the Orioles are only 1 out of the wild card, so 14 teams ahead of them too. So we'll see how that goes. Just because we're up against the clock, we're going to go into comments. We'll see where this takes us today. Glenn says we live. Yep, we're here. Obviously. What's on the menu tonight? Well, you obviously you know what it is now. It's okay. Chicken a la face. I don't know if that's a thing for Nick or what. Glenn still says 112 losses. I don't know if it's going to be that much anymore. I think they're winning too much for 112. Sports in General says, let's go Sox. SOCKS. The offense completely flipped a switch the last 2 weeks. June is going to be fun if they keep this up. Again, everybody loves the summer, although the weather's not really cooperating in that fashion. One of us wrote back to you. That's the question. Do we think this team is more like what we saw over the weekend series in Cleveland the first 2 months, or the worst offense of recent history? I think you wrote that. That 6-run 7th inning with 2 outs on Sunday showed so much grit. Love seeing every single starter get a hit. It's been rare, especially like I've mentioned, when we've had some really poor lineups. Every time I say it's a poor lineup, they come up with a poorer one and they still score. So Betty says she made it. Good for Durbin. Here's another interesting thing on the Durbin thing. I don't know what you guys think, really, really fast, but is it kind of a kick in the teeth to the Red Sox that a guy that's struggling coming in here with launch angle and whatnot goes outside the organization, could, I use it strongly, be fixed, and then as a big smug FU to the rest of the organization? Nick, 10 seconds. What do you think about all that?
I think it's hysterical, to tell you the truth. I do.
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely hysterical.
John?
Yeah, I agree with Nick. I think it is funny that nobody in the Red Sox organization from the hitting department could figure this out as quickly as these guys did. But, at the end of the day, Narvaez went there earlier in the season, and then he had a little bit of a hot streak too. So, I'll take it. We need these guys to perform when they're in the lineup. I don't care how they do it. I just care if they're putting the ball in play, hitting the ball hard.
Fair.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. It's definitely tells you a lot. It tells you everything you need to know. Durbin's bat is finally coming alive following his multi-hit game on Saturday with that massive triple on Sunday is huge for his confidence. Look, he's got basically a few weeks to see if he can put it together because the Red Sox need the offense, and I don't know if they're going to be in the market for anybody, but we'll definitely see. Betty, finally hope it lasts. That's the biggest question. It's the biggest elephant in the room is whether it will boost his stats so he can be traded. I think she's referring to Duran there. But yeah, it's one of those things that he should be traded, should have been traded a few years ago. Sports in General, Yoshida losing that ball in the sun had me sweating, but driving in the go-ahead run right after is pure cinema. Talk about the ultimate redemption. It is, but again, it shouldn't have happened. He should have been able to.
He did the same thing at Kansas City where he
Yep.
had the ball pop off his glove and then next batter threw the guy out at home.
Yep. Betty says Durbin, Gray, and Contreras are all playing hard. Soon they'll be traded. I mean, I don't know if you're going to get anything for Durbin. That's the problem. But Gray and Contreras, if they are going to sell, I think you can get quite a bit for both those guys. We'll see how it goes. Betty thinks Crochet won't be back this year. I don't know if it's to that degree, but it's certainly questioning what's going on and what their thoughts are, unless it's going to be one of these, well, second half of the year, we don't do anything in the trade market, but we're getting Roman Anthony and Crochet back. So it's as if you, and I hate that. I hate that whole narrative.
Cashman special.
Yeah. Weissert is so bad. Betty says, I pray Chappie doesn't get traded because Breslow isn't capable of getting value. Well, that's the biggest thing. And I think that's why it's so important about what's been said with Theo and what's been leaked so far, because you can't let Breslow be in charge of this trade deadline. Nick.
Breslow will not be in charge of the trade deadline. You mark my words. It will not happen.
Yep. What do you think will happen if San Francisco comes to Fenway? They're a terrible team that they sweep. I don't know. You know what? Trade me Rafael Devers and a Rise. They should have had a Rise over the offseason. That would have been the constant.
We talked about him. We talked about him. He'd be a great addition at second base.
And it wouldn't have cost you anything. Now they're looking to now that he's going to be, if the Red Sox are going to go after him, it's going to be in a trade. It'd be interesting to see if that actually has any legs. Breslow will soon be fired. Once you start hearing all the talk, it happens. Again, smoke, there's fire. What about Jason Varitek? I don't think he's coming back.
Kennedy, if Theo's there, he will.
Yeah, I mean, maybe with him, he's in charge. Nick is right.
Always right.
Dr. Jim knows. Thanks, Betty. That's going to wrap it up for tonight. I'd like to thank Nick, John, and Thayer for being on with us. If you haven't had a chance yet, please definitely go to our website at redsoxdigest.com and go ahead and get a subscription. We have articles every day after a Red Sox game with the most savage and sarcastic and funny commentary that you can have. Hopefully sign up for that. Also, too, check out our YouTube page. Check us out on Twitter and on TikTok as well. Got some videos there on TikTok as well. Any last minute comments from anybody before we wrap up? Super Mario.
I'm shocked they won a series.
Yeah, it was the 6th of the year. And it's only June. We're going to end on that note. Have a good night, everybody. Go Sox, and we'll see you Thursday night. Take care.